Hey guys, how you going? Okay, I worked out what the headache was about the other day. I have the flu. My family had COVID last week, so yeah, I got the flu. Okay. Anyway, Matt, we're going to get on with these Twitter files. And I will also be back live, I don't know about tomorrow, but definitely Friday, Saturday live for Christmas. Okay, number one, thread, the Twitter files supplemental. In July of 2020, San Francisco FBI agent Elvis Chan tells Twitter executive Yoel Roth to expect written questions from the Foreign Influence Task Force, FITF, the interagency group that deals with cyber threats. Hi Yoel, I believe FITF would like a response ahead of our meeting the week of August 10th. It can be a written response, or we can set up a phone call, whatever is easiest for you. I think you can tell from the nature of the questions that there was quite a bit of discussion with the USIC to get clarifications from your company. Let me know how you would like to proceed. Thanks, Elvis. The questionnaire authors seem displeased with Twitter for implying in a July 20th DHS, ODNI, FBI industry briefing that you indicated you had not observed much recent activity from official propaganda actors on your platform. During the 10 June 2020 working group meeting on election security, you indicated you had not observed much recent activity from official propaganda actors on your platform. To make sure we understand the state media online landscape as much as possible, we hope you would be able to answer some questions about your analysis and conclusions. For context, other sources we are aware of, including those referenced below, indicate state media actors are prolific users of social media, which seems in contrast to your own analysis as we documented it at the time of our discussion. We would appreciate any other information you're willing to provide about your recent conclusions. In what ways and by what measures do you see official propaganda actors as less active than other groups on your platform? What groups are you comparing to official propaganda actors? What official propaganda actors did you include in your analysis? How do you differentiate official propaganda actors from foreign state actors, and what is the reasoning to make that distinction? In which bucket do you place, for example, outlets such as Rupley or in the Now, which are part of the state media apparatus but seek to obscure that link by using different branding? Are they included in your analysis? What quantitative metrics do you use to judge volume of activity on your platform? On what scale? Can you provide those metrics? What relative weight do you give each metric when judging volume of activity? What qualitative measures do you use to inform judgments about activity, including the volume of activity on your platform? How do you limit the scope of your analysis of the domestic, scam, foreign state, official propaganda, and white supremacist actors, i.e. date range, language, location, topic, etc.? References include... okay, they put references in there. Okay. Interesting. Sorry, guys. I'm trying not to sniff or cough on you guys, but very sorry. One would think that would be good news. The agencies seem to feel otherwise. Chan underscored this. There was quite a bit of discussion within the USIC to get clarifications from your company, he wrote, referring to the United States intelligence community. The task force demanded to know how Twitter came to its unpopular conclusion. Oddly, it included a bibliography of public sources, including a Wall Street Journal article, attesting to the prevalence of foreign threats, as if to show Twitter they got it wrong. Roth, receiving the questions, circulated them with other company executives and complained that he was frankly perplexed by the questions here, which seem more like something we'd get from a congressional committee than the Bureau. Not particularly comfortable with the Bureau, and by extension the IC, demanding written answers here. What's your perspective on how to best navigate? He added he was not comfortable with the Bureau, and by extension the IC, demanding written answers. The idea of the FBI acting as a conduit for the intelligence community is interesting, given that many agencies are barred from domestic operations. He then sent another note internally saying the premise of the questions was flawed because we've been clear that official state propaganda is definitely a thing on Twitter. Note the italics for emphasis. Is definitely a thing on Twitter, okay? But that's different in terms of how we handle it than clandestine fake accounts. Okay. Roth suggests that they get on the phone with Elvis ASAP and try to straighten this out, to disabuse the agencies of any notion that state propaganda is not a thing on Twitter. This exchange is odd, among other things, because some of the bibliography materials cited by the TF, are sourced to intelligence officials, who in turn cited the public sources. Pause to sniff. Sorry, guys. The FBI responded to Friday's report by saying it regularly engages with private sector entities to provide information specific to identified foreign malign influence actors, subversive, undeclared, covert or criminal activities. The FBI replies to Matt Taibbi. The FBI regularly engages with private sector entities, blah, blah, blah. Yep. Private sector entities independently make decisions about. Oh, yeah, right. That may be true, but we haven't seen that in the documents to date. Instead, we've mostly seen requests for moderation involving low follower accounts belonging to ordinary Americans and Billy Baldwin. Watch Barry Weiss and Schellenberger for more from the Twitter files. Okay, now we've got the next one, which is, I'll just pause it while I pull the next one up, which is Twitter files number 7. Okay, and I've got number 8 as well now. I'm so behind because I've been a bit unwell, guys. So sorry. Michael Schellenberger said, Twitter Files, Part 7. The FBI and the Hunter Biden laptop. How the FBI and intelligence community discredited factual information about Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings, both after and before the New York Post revealed the contents of his laptop on October the 14th, 2020. In Twitter Files 6, we saw the FBI relentlessly seek to exercise influence over Twitter, including over its content, its users, and its data. In Twitter Files number 7, we present evidence pointing to an organised effort by representatives of the intelligence community, IC, aimed at senior executives at news and social media companies to discredit leaked information about Hunter Biden before and after it was published. The story begins in December 2019 when a Delaware computer store owner named John Paul, JP, Mac, Isaac, contacts the FBI about a laptop that Hunter Biden had left with him. On December the 9th, 2019, the FBI issues a subpoena for and takes Hunter Biden's laptop. By August 2020, Mac Isaac still had not heard back from the FBI, even though he had discovered evidence of criminal activity, and so he emails Rudy Giuliani, who was under FBI surveillance at the time. In early October, Giuliani gives it to the New York Post. Shortly before 7 p.m. Eastern Time on October 13th, Hunter Biden's lawyer George Mazaras emails JP Mac Isaac. Hunter and Mazaras had just learnt from the New York Post that a story about the laptop would be published the next day. Okay, at 9:22 p.m. Eastern Time, 6:22 PT. What's PT? Someone let me know in the comments, please. FBI Special Agent Chris Chan sends 10 documents to Twitter's then head of site integrity, Yoel Roth, through Teleporter, a one-way communications channel from the FBI to Twitter. Heads up, I'll be sending a Teleporter link for you to download 10 documents, not spam. Please confirm receipt when you get it. Received and downloaded, thanks. The next day, October 14th, 2020, the New York Post runs its explosive story revealing the business dealings of President Joe Biden's son Hunter. Every single fact in it was accurate. And yet, within hours, Twitter and other social media companies censor the New York Post article, preventing it from spreading and, more importantly, undermining its credibility in the minds of many Americans. Why is that? What exactly happened? On December the 2nd, Matt Taibbi described the debate inside Twitter over its decision to censor a wholly accurate article. Since then, we've discovered the new info that points to an organised effort by the intel community to influence Twitter and other platforms, and that's Twitter Files Part 1, which you'll find in one of my previous live streams. I'm going to have to try and edit it to make a series of Twitter Files. First, it's important to understand that Hunter Biden earned tens of millions of dollars in contracts with foreign businesses, including ones linked to China's government, for which Hunter offered no real work. I'm going to try and include the link down below. And yet, during all of 2020, the FBI and other law enforcement agencies repeatedly primed Yoel Roth to dismiss reports of Hunter Biden's laptop as Russian hack and leak operation. This is from a sworn declaration by Roth given in December 2020. Since 2018, I've had regular meetings with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and industry peers regarding election security. During these weekly meetings, the federal law enforcement agencies communicated that they expected hack and leak operations by state actors might occur in the period shortly before the 2020 presidential election, likely in October. I was told in these meetings that the intelligence community expected that individuals associated with political campaigns would be subject to hacking attacks, and that material obtained through those hacking attacks would likely be disseminated over social media platforms, including Twitter. These expectations of hack and leak operations were discussed throughout 2020. I also learnt in these meetings that there were rumours that a hack and leak operation would involve Hunter Biden. They did the same to Facebook. According to CEO Mark Zuckerberg, the FBI basically came to us and was like, hey, you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot more Russian propaganda in 2016 election. There's about to be some kind of dump similar to that. Were the FBI warnings of a Russian attack and leak operation relating to Hunter Biden based on any new intel? No, they weren't. Through our investigations, we did not see any similar competing intrusions to what happened in 2016, admitted FBI agent Elvis Chan in November. There you go. And by Mr. I can't say that, Sayer. Well, you did do it more than once? Answer, I did it more. Yes, I warned the companies about a potential for hack and dump operations from the Russians and Iranians on more than one occasion, though I cannot recollect how many times. Question, did anybody else at the FBI talk about hack and dump Russian operations? From my recollection, other senior officials, to include Chief Denlow, likely mentioned the possibility of hack and dump operations. This is obviously his questions. As you see. Okay, now if you want, I will put the link for this down below. Indeed, Twitter executives repeatedly reported very little Russian activity. Example, on September the 24th, 2020, Twitter told FBI to remove 345 largely inactive accounts linked to previous coordinated Russian hacking attempts. They had little reach and low follower accounts. Wow. In fact, Twitter debunked false claims by journalists of foreign influence on its platform. We haven't seen any evidence to support that claim by _NBC News of foreign-controlled bots. Our review thus far shows small-scale domestic troll effort. After FBI asked about a WAPO story on alleged foreign interference in a pro-Trump tweet, Twitter Roth says the article makes a lot of insinuations, but we saw no evidence that that was the case here, and in fact a lot of strong evidence pointing in the other direction. It's not the first time that Twitter's Roth has pushed back against the FBI. In January 2020, Roth resisted FBI efforts to get Twitter to share data outside the normal search warrant process. Okay, what did they say? My colleagues at the Fort had a query for you. I've provided it to you below. A few years ago, Twitter said they would no longer provide their data feed to members of the intelligence community. My colleagues wanted to know that if that policy has changed, or would you be willing to change it? My colleagues are currently contracting with a vendor for an analytic tool for open source intelligence, only public available data. The commercial version of this tool includes a Twitter data feed. However, the feed was disabled because the vendor said they did not want to violate their terms of service with Twitter. My colleagues are wondering if Twitter would be open to revising its terms of service to allow this vendor to continue having access to the Twitter feed. My colleagues are happy to meet in person to discuss this if you like. This communication contains neither recommendations nor conclusions of the FBI. It's property of the FBI and is loaned to your agency. It and its contents or attachments are not to be distributed outside of your agency. And hey, as discussed, here's my suggested response. Of course, feel free to tweak, edit, but I tried to hit the major points. Okay, at this point, we don't think a call directly with your colleague at the fort is the best path forward. As a rule, we're not able to directly discuss data licensing relationships with third parties, such as the customers of our data customers, both due to confidentiality reasons and limited information on our end about the business decisions that may have led one of our customers to decline to provide services to the government. We also have a long-standing policy prohibiting the use of our data products and APIs for surveillance and intelligence gathering purposes, which we would not deviate from. Ultimately, we want to be good partners to government and help combat our shared threats, but the best path for NSA or any part of the government to request information about Twitter users or their content is in accordance with valid legal process. Thanks. We have seen a sustained, if uncoordinated, effort by the intelligence community to push us to share more info and change our API policies. They are probing and pushing everywhere they can, including by whispering to congressional staff. Time and again, FBI asks Twitter for evidence of foreign influence, and Twitter responds that they aren't finding anything worth reporting. We haven't yet identified activity that we typically refer to you or even flag as interesting in the foreign influence context. Despite Twitter's pushback, the FBI repeatedly requests information from Twitter that Twitter has already made clear it will not share outside of normal legal channels. Sorry. One sec, guys. Okay, this one says, in terms of VoIP usage, Twitter requires people registering an account to confirm either an email address or phone number, and in the course of using Twitter, we may require account holders to confirm a phone number if we detect any indications of suspicious activity originating from their accounts. Several of the phone numbers we observed associated with these accounts appeared to be linked to VoIP phone providers, a relatively common tactic for obtaining phone numbers for the purpose of account information. As for the VPN, after consulting with Blank, we would need legal process to provide further information about the IPs, subnets, providers, etc. associated with the authentication IPs from these accounts. Wow. Then in July 2020, the FBI's Elvis Chan arranges for temporary top secret security clearances for Twitter executives so that the FBI can share information about threats to the upcoming elections. Since I brought up the security clearances during our call, I don't think we have anyone at Twitter who has a permanent security clearance. Correct me if I'm wrong. What I would propose is that 30 days out from the election, we get you temporary clearances. You get to pick who they would be. Let me know what you think. Thanks. Regards, Elvis. On August 11th, 2020, the FBI's Chan shares information with Twitter's Roth relating to the Russian hacking organisation APT28 through the FBI's secure one-way communications channel, Telereporter. I've got some information to share with you, blah blah. Alcon, in advance of this week's meeting, I'm going to be sending you 3 documents through an FBI application called Teleporter. You will get a link from no reply teleporter01.org, which will expire in 24 hours. Please download the documents when you get a chance. The documents will not denote the actors, so I'm providing them here. A. FITF topic. B. APT28. C. Sandworm. We'll be discussing A and B, but don't have anything additional for C at this point. Thanks. Recently, Yoel Roth told Kara Swisher that he had been primed to think about the Russian hacking group APT28 before news of the Hunter Biden laptop came out. When it did, Roth said it set off every single one of my finely tuned APT28 hack and leap campaign alarm bells. In August 2020, FBI's Chan asked Twitter, does anyone there have top secret clearance? When someone mentions Jim Baker, Chan responds, I don't know how I forgot him, an odd claim given Chan's job is to monitor Twitter, not to mention that they work together at the FBI. Of course not. Who is Jim Baker? He's former General Counsel of the FBI 2014 to 18 and one of the most powerful men in the US intel community. Baker has moved in and out of government for 30 years, serving stints at CNN, Bridgewater, a $140 billion asset management firm, and Brookings. As General Counsel of the FBI, Baker played a central role in making the case internally for an investigation of Donald Trump. Baker wasn't the only senior FBI exec involved in the Trump investigation to go to Twitter. Dawn Burton, the former Deputy Chief of Staff to FBI head James Comey, who initiated the investigation of Trump, joined Twitter in 2019 as Director of Strategy. As of 2020, there were so many former FBI employees, Boo alumni, working at Twitter that they had created their own private Slack channel and a crib sheet to onboard new FBI arrivals. This is what I thought. There's a revolving door between the FBI and Twitter as well. Okay, who have we got? Hey Jim, so excited you are here. I'm no longer the newest one. Here is the new to Twitter translation chart I mentioned, adding Dawn so she can add correct. Again, welcome. Super pumped to work with you again. The things they're working on, is it? The Bureau and Twitter. See Vanguard in there. Everbridge. Efforts continued to influence Twitter's Yoel Roth. In September 2020, Roth participated in an Aspen Institute tabletop exercise on a potential hack and dump operation relating to Hunter Biden. The goal was to shape how the media covered it and how social media carried it. The organiser was Vivian Schiller, the former CEO of NPR, former head of news at Twitter, former general manager of New York Times, former chief digital officer of NBC News. Attendees included Meta's Facebook head of security policy and the top national security reporters for New York, or secretary, I don't know, security reporters for New York Times and WAPO and others. Oh my goodness, I'm having a little bit of trouble talking. Janine Zachariah, Vivian Schiller, Nathaniel Gleicher, Yoel Roth, Olga Blagova, Claire at First Draft News, David E. Sanger, Nakashima, Ellen Davis, Rick, Andrew, James Grotto, Dave McGraw, Noah Shachtman. Replying to Schellenberger, hiding hunters. Oh, okay, no, there's more. Here, hang on. I'm missing a bit. Sorry, guys, I don't know why they just don't let the whole thing just roll. By mid-September 2020, Chan and Roth had set up an encrypted message network so employees from Twitter, FBI and Twitter could communicate. They also agreed to create a virtual war room for all the internet industry plus FBI and ODNI, Office of the Director of National Intelligence. Great, that's all we need. Then on September the 15th, 2020, the FBI's Laura Denlow, who heads up the Foreign Influence Task Force, and Elvis Chan, request to give a classified briefing for Jim Baker without any other Twitter staff, such as Yoel Roth, present. Hope all is well. Can you help Laura Denlow and Elvis Chan of the FBI schedule a classified briefing for Jim? They'd like to meet early next week, if possible. On October the 14th, shortly after New York Post publishes its Hunter Biden laptop story, Roth says it isn't clearly violative of our hack materials policy, nor is it clearly in violation of anything else, but adds this feels a lot like a somewhat subtle leak operation. There you go. Personal view on this, unsubstantiated by hard evidence as yet. This feels a lot like a somewhat subtle leak operation. We'll be developing a recommendation for what, if anything, we want to do over the course of the day, Yoel. In response to Roth, Baker repeatedly insists that the Hunter Biden materials were either faked, hacked, or both, and in violation of Twitter policy, Baker does so over email and in a Google Doc on 14th and 15th of October. Okay, I've seen some reliable cybersecurity folks question the authenticity emails in another way, i.e. there's no metadata pertaining to them. Of course, the FBI are going to cover it up. They haven't investigated anything here. I'm guessing we're going to restrict access to this article as violation of our hack materials, but after yesterday I don't want to assume anything. And yet it is inconceivable Baker believed the Hunter Biden emails were either fake or hacked. The New York Post had included a picture of the receipt signed by Hunter Biden, and an FBI subpoena showed the agency had taken possession of the laptop in December 2019. As for the FBI, it would likely have taken a few hours for it to confirm that the laptop had belonged to Hunter Biden. Indeed, it only took a few days for journalist Peter Schweizer to prove it. By 10 a.m, Twitter execs had bought it into wild hack and dump story. The suggestion from experts, which rings true, is there was a hack that happened separately and they loaded the hack materials on the laptop that magically appeared at a repair shop in Delaware. And it says, after a pause and a cough, okay, it says, hi folks, lots of good discussion of this case in the doc, sharing a bit of additional context about why we're recommending this action. The key factor informing our approach is consensus from experts monitoring election security and disinformation that this looks a lot like a hack and leak that learned from the 2016 WikiLeaks approach and our policy changes. The suggestion from experts, put quotes around the word experts, which rings true, is there was a hack that happened separately and they loaded the hack materials onto the laptop that magically appeared at a repair shop in Delaware and was coincidentally reviewed in a very invasive way by someone who coincidentally then handed the materials to Rudy Giuliani. Given the severe risks we saw in this space in 2016, we're recommending a warning plus de-amplification pending further information. If additional information emerges that establishes the origins of the materials more conclusively, we could either reverse this action and remove the warning or escalate our enforcement should it cross the line fully into hacked materials. We recognise that the product experience of the warning label is less than ideal and will surface that feedback with the experienced team again as evidence for why we need more robust URL management options. Based on a discussion with Vijaya, we'll move forward with this action once it gets sign off from comms. Y'all. At 3:38 p.m. that same day, October 14th, Baker arranges a phone call conversation with Matthew J. Perry in the office of the General Counsel of FBI. The influence operation persuaded Twitter execs that the Hunter Biden laptop did not come from a whistleblower. One linked to a Hill article based on a WAPO article from October 15th, which falsely suggested that Giuliani's leak of the laptop had something to do with Russia. Russia. There is evidence that FBI agents have warned elected officials of foreign influence with the primary goal of leaking the information to the news media. This is a political dirty trick used to create the perception of impropriety. In 2020, the FBI gave a briefing to Senator Grassley and Johnson claiming evidence of Russian interference into their investigation of Hunter Biden. The briefing angered the senators, who say it was done to discredit their investigation. The unnecessary FBI briefing provided the Democrats and liberal media the vehicle to spread their false narrative that our work advanced Russian disinformation. Notably then, FBI General Counsel Jim Baker was investigated twice in 2017 and 2019 for leaking information to the news media. You're saying he's under criminal investigation? That's why you're not letting him answer? Meadows asked. Yes. In the end, the FBI's influence campaign aimed at executives at news media, Twitter and other social media companies worked. They censored and discredited the Hunter Biden laptop story. By December 2020, Baker and his colleagues even sent a note of thanks to the FBI for its work. The FBI's influence campaign may have been helped by the fact that it was paying Twitter millions of dollars for its staff time. I am happy to report we've collected $3,415,323 since October 2019, reports an associate of Jim Baker in early 2021. This wouldn't be where some of the FBI, the Pentagon's missing millions, trillions went, would it? Interesting, isn't it? Because it happened just recently again, and it happened just before 9/11. And the pressure from the FBI on social media platforms continues. In August 2022, Twitter execs prepared for a meeting with the FBI whose goal was to convince us to produce on more FBI EDRs. EDRs are an emergency disclosure request, a warrantless search. Team, I had an advanced prep call today with Blank of the FBI, your 9-6 meeting with them. Here are some key takeaways. Attending on the FBI side will be someone with the first name starting with an M or an N, plus people from NTOC and perhaps others from violent crimes at HQ. Their goal in the meeting is to convince us to produce more FBI EDRs. They will try to do this by having NTOC educate us on the threats they are seeing, their procedures and processes for responding to tips, and what their standards are for when they seek EDRs. They plan on bringing statistics on our rate of compliance, which they labelled variable, and several forehead knockers, i.e. situations where in the FBI view there is no reason why we would not have complied. They repeatedly emphasised Twitter's lower level of compliance in comparison with other platforms. I kindly emphasised back that repeatedly stressing that our team is not going to be a good strategy to move the needle in their direction. These bullets make it seem like this will be a confrontational meeting, which I do not think it will be. Instead, I get the feeling they are genuinely baffled and frustrated that their rate of success, as they say, is so low at Twitter. On our side, I think it could be helpful to have some statistics at our fingertips, about how the FBI has far and away greater rate of production than anyone else. I assume this is true. It might also be helpful to get a sense of the reasons we are denying their requests. Matt suggested that it was our high requirement of imminence, which is the narrative I expect his team will push. So it would be interesting to see if that's actually the issue or if it's something else. I realise no one has time to do anything extra, so these are just nice to haves, not must haves. You're all perfectly fine to just go into the meeting and listen and say thanks so much for your input and leave. But if you have interest in countering their version of the facts, it would probably be helpful to do a little digging on our side. Thanks so much, and a big blank. In response to the Twitter files revelation of high-level FBI agents at Twitter, Jim Jordan said, I have concerns about whether the government was running a misinformation operation on we the people. Anyone who reads the Twitter files, regardless of their political orientation, should share those concerns. End. Okay, well, I have a concern. There's a revolving door between the FBI and social media platforms. Central Intelligence and social media platforms. And I really do wonder if their missing trillions have even a little bit to do with this. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave this video. I'm going to break them down. So this will be number 7 with a supplemental in there. And I will be back with Twitter files number 8. And I also have a video of a turkey in my garden. I caught it on video. So that'll be for the members only, and then it'll be released to everyone else a day or two later. Okay, guys, have a good one, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, bye.